Business Focus with Kudzie, Sharara on the Champions League breakfast.
At POSB, we believe in empowering every individual to reach their full potential. From children to youths, informal workers to professionals, startups to large enterprises, and farmers to retirees, POSB has financial solutions for everyone. Welcome to the Business Focus, proudly brought to you by the People's Own Savings Bank, POSB.
19 minutes before 8 a.m. is our time. Good morning and welcome to Business Focus, proudly brought to us by POSB. As always, we have Kudzie Sharara to help us discuss. He is on the line with us today. Good morning to you, Kudzie. How are you today?
Good morning, Tinashe. Good morning, everyone.
Thank you, Kudzie. Let's begin by rewinding to the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange trading update for last week, Friday.
Thank you, Tinashe. So, nothing much happening there on the resi, with the Osha index losing by a margin of 0.19%. The top 10 index easing by 0.27%. Then just to lead the risers was South Africa up by 8.53%. Sitco putting on 0.32%. Tanganda TSL also recording a margin of 0.07%. And Delta gaining slightly there by 0.03 cents. So not much movement there. But on the downside, the biggest loser were ZHL, down by 12.86%. Ecocash down by 2.06%. OK Zimbabwe losing 1.23%. CBZ coming off by 1.07%. And Nampec dropping 0.075%. In terms of the amount of money that changed hands on Friday, also very little, about 2.6 million ZiG worth of shares changing hands there, with most trades happening in Econet, about 1.5 million ZiG worth of shares changing hands there. In Sitco, 720,000, Dairyboard, 114,000, Delta, 113,000, in South Africa, 104,000. So that's those were the trades that took place on the resi. I expect the market to continue on that trading sideways with not much without much movement on the share prices. But we continue to see companies that are reporting their financials for those that have for their year end or March. Those ones, we are also seeing them declaring and paying dividends. And also we are in a period where most companies are holding their annual general meetings. And just looking at the trading updates that they've been giving to investors, it shows that they're still in a positive. Most of them are still in a positive trajectory when you look at the volumes. A growth in volumes, also in terms of revenue generation, you can see that it's an upward trajectory. These are companies that are having their annual general meetings in the last couple of weeks, a few more this week as well. And then also looking at you remember Zimbabwe Stock Exchange listed companies are now expected to release sustainability reports where they tell us how they are handling the issues of ESG, that's the environment, social, and governance issues. So we get now to see, for example, how much water a certain company will be using, how much emissions are they emitting into the environment, how much corporate social responsibility they are doing, their impact to the environment and to the societies where they operate from. So it's been an interesting one to see companies coming up with those sustainability reports, and I think it's a good thing that Zimbabwe is now enforcing sustainability reports. And this shows us we are talking about the future. If the current operators, economic agencies of today are not protecting the environment, then obviously future generations will suffer, just like we are talking about climate. having been caused by economic activities in developed countries, it's now having an impact even in developing economies such as Zimbabwe, and we are now forced to do some things that probably we were not the ones who caused the climate challenges that we are now having. For example, there have been calls over the years that we should stop producing, or we should move away from the use of fossil fuels in terms of energy. And there's been debate to say even now what we are emitting is still very insignificant to what the developed world are emitting. And when there was a conflict in Russia and Ukraine, we started to see those countries that had been calling that we should move away or shift away from coal, reverting back to the use of fossil fuel powered electricity generators, which shows that we still a long way. But I think it's a good thing that we need to protect the environment, and having companies to report their ESG activities, I think it's a good thing. Just for interest, one company, in terms of their ESG reporting, for example, Delta, for example, they use about 12,000 commercial and smallholder farmers in terms of the imports that they require. So their barley, the total barley and sorghum requirements, they come from local farmers, and over 50% of Delta's maize requirements, they come from these farmers, and also predominantly their sugar, citrus juices and wines, they're also coming from the farmers that they work with directly, or 12,000 commercial and smallholder farmers. So these are some of the information that you get to find out when companies start reporting on their ESG. Another one maybe that we can talk about for interest sake is, for example, Zim Papers. The company uses about 3.2 tons of ink just to print those newspapers. They use about 3.2 tons of ink. They use 800 kgs of cotton glue. They use about 18,200 liters of alcohol and roller wash, and then about 18 million sheets of paper in their commercial printing division. So these are some of the statistics that you would now find in Kanban annual report, and I think it's a good thing. Then we get to see what needs to be done to reduce or to make things better.
All right, Kudzie, thank you so much for that update. Let's quickly look at the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange self-listing. What is the current update? Remember last time you spoke about they were allowed to list now. Where have they've gone now at the moment?
Thank you, Tinashe. So the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange is going to list on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange on the 9th of July. That's why we are calling it self-listing, because this is a company that runs an exchange and is going to list on that particular exchange. But some people are then thinking of conflict of interest. Remember that the ZSC gets to, in a way, on behalf of the Securities and Exchange Commission, they get to regulate or control or issue listing requirements to different companies that then come to list on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, and those companies are supposed to release financial results. We're just talking about those sustainability reports, and the ZSC is supposed to be monitoring that and making sure that these companies are adhering to the listing requirements. But now we have the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange listing on its own bows, and people are saying, how are they going to regulate or making sure that they are doing things above the board? So that should not be a worry, because the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe will now be the one that will look at the books and financials of and making sure that the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange is abiding by the listing rules of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. So there won't be any fears of conflict of interest, because the regulator, the Securities and Exchange Commission of Zimbabwe, will be regulating. So that's on the 9th of July. Just this week, we will see the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange getting listed. Some might want to know at the moment who owns the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. At the moment, who owns the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange? So government has the biggest stake in there, about not the biggest stake, but it's got a 32% shareholding in the as of 2023. numbers that I have. Government owns 32% of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. Stockbroking firms, they own 36.46%. Private companies, 5%. Individual stockbrokers, 24%. Some deceased estates, about 2.45%. So those were the current shareholders. Now, in order to achieve the minimum regulatory spread requirement, so the company must have at least 300 shareholders, and the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange didn't have that many shareholders. They only had 48 shareholders before this. But for them to abide or meet the requirements, they needed at least 300 shareholders. So the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange did something exciting for the market. So remember that they also have trading platforms, the VLC Direct and the VFX Direct. So what they did, they gave people who have been consistently trading via VLC Direct and VFX Direct, they were given free shares. So about 700 new shareholders were given free shares, and some of those new shareholders are people who were just using the trading platforms such as the VLC Direct and VFX Direct, and they ended up being given bonus shares. So they are now shareholders of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange just by trading via those trading platforms. So congratulations to those who got some shares of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. So by the time it lists on the 9th of July, which is this week, it will have enough shareholders to meet the regulatory requirements.
All right, Kudzie, thank you so much for that update. 7 minutes before 8 is our time. Avoid the inconvenience of leaving your items at the till point or delaying the queue while trying to get hold of your family or friends to send you money to pay for your basics because you've been told insufficient funds. Ayondati. Insufficient funds. You need to move away from that. The POSB payday loan has you covered instantly without any hassle or any tussle. All you need to do is to just dial *223# or *222#. Select option 6, instant loans, and get up to $100 before the till operator says it is out. Says it out louder for everyone to hear. Insufficient funds mkoma. That card remunerator insufficient funds. All you need to do is to dial *223# or *222#. Select option 6 and you get the instant loan. If your salary comes through POSB, you are already in. No paperwork, no delays, and best of all, even if you are paying other loans, you can still get the POSB payday loan. All you need to do is to call *223# or *222#. POSB, celebrating 120 years of transforming livelihoods and building unforgettable memories together. #convenience made simply possible. It is Business Focus right here on Capitalk. All right, Kudzie, let's look as we wrap up for today. Let's look at the gold production. What is the latest update for the country?
Thank you, Tinashe. So last week, I think we're talking about the tobacco sector having reached the all-time highs of, I think, 296 million kgs. But we are now at above 330 million kgs of tobacco. So we are doing great there in terms of tobacco. Although we were questioning or maybe interrogating the impact of the 1 billion earnings from tobacco, what sort of impact is that having on our economy? Some statistics show that only 10% of that will really circulate within our economy or will have a real impact on our economy because of the funding model of that sector. But when it comes to gold, it's probably a different case altogether because gold, we are also doing quite well as a country. Gold exports increased by 24% during the first 5 months of the year. So about 748 million was generated in the first 5 months of the year. So gold there at the moment trailing the tobacco earnings, which have closed the $1 billion mark. But gold will continue to produce gold for the rest of the year. Unlike tobacco, the selling season is almost nearing its end. So gold obviously will have more earnings from gold than from tobacco. But just looking at that number, 24% growth in gold production to 748 million US dollars, up from 599 million US dollars prior year comparative. So this is for the first 5 months of the year, and the monthly breakdown shows that strong performance with January. I think in January, that's where we had the biggest contribution of about $123 million being generated there. February, about 117 million. March came out, March came out the top at, March was 150. So in fact, I think we continue to see growth from those numbers, because March we went up to 155, April to 183, and then we came off a bit in May. So for the first 5 months of the year, we have gold production has reached about 748. Last year, in total, we generated about $1.5 billion from gold. So if we maintain that trend, a 24% growth, we would likely get to $2 billion being generated from gold production. And the good thing about gold production is that your small scale, the so-called amakorokoza, but small scale gold producers, they produce more gold, and most of them will spend the money locally, and they are being paid in US dollars, and they'll spend the money locally. So we get more value from the gold that is being produced. And then we have got primary gold producers. So when we talk of primary gold producers, we are not talking about the big companies that produce gold, your Rio Z, your Blanket Mine, your Eureka Mine, and many other big scale miners. Those ones, yes, they are also significant producers for our economy, but the bulk of the gold that is being sold or mined here in Zimbabwe is mined by small scale gold miners. And just talking about the big miners, the one from Blanket Mine. Blanket Mine is one of the mines that has been doing so well in terms of gold production, and it's listed on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange under Caledonia. So Caledonia is, I think, it's one of the shares people should consider looking at, and obviously speaking to your financial or stockbroker to get advice. But it's one company that has been doing well every quarter. Blanket Mine, or is it Caledonia Mine, which owns Blanket Mine, they pay a dividend of about 14 US cents every quarter. They've been consistent for several years, and if you are to get those shares, I think you enjoy that dividend. And they have continued with drilling and exploration. And the latest results that they talk about of their drilling campaign, they say they continue to demonstrate encouraging results, further improving confidence that Blanket Mine mineral reserves, and pointing to additional future mineral resource growth. And they are saying that the grades and width they are seeing from this drilling campaign are as good, and in some cases even better than the results that they've had previously, which they say is highly encouraging. They are saying they anticipate that the positive grades and width will result in increased overall mineral resource estimate, which is in due course should result in the extension of the life of the mine. So these are some of the mines. I know Blanket Mine and also Dalaglio, the mines that are under Dalaglio, owned by Padenga. Those mines have been doing quite well, and it's good for the economy.
All right, Kudzie, well said, and we appreciate for that update from you for Business Focus. Thank you so much for today. Let's discuss more tomorrow.
Thank you, Tinash.
You want to find out more about the POSB Payday Loan? Feel free to drop an email on customersupport@posb.co.zw or follow the social media platforms at POSB Zimbabwe.
At POSB, we are committed to providing the support for everyone to thrive and succeed. Today's Business Focus was proudly brought to you by POSB, celebrating 120 years of transforming livelihoods and building unforgettable memories together. Hashtag convenience made simply possible.
Business Focus with Kudzie Sharara on the Champions League Breakfast.